It has been a minute since I have posted a YouTube video, and so I thought that I would get back to it. I'm just going to do a quick, kind of gentle 15 to 20 minute hip opener today. So we're just going to start on our backs. I'm going to have you hug your right knee to your chest and just start rolling the ankle out a little bit. And switch directions in that ankle roll. And then very gently, we're going to start to straighten that right leg up toward the ceiling. Not all the way. Keep a slight bend there. With your left hand, you're going to wrap it around the outside of the right thigh. And then very gently, we're going to pull it across the body. You want to try to keep your right shoulder blade glued down to the mat. And use your exhale to deepen that stretch a little bit. If you just go right into it and try to force your leg down, your body will often resist. So slow movements and full deep breaths. We're not trying to rush anything here. We're trying to sink into it. On your next inhale, we'll come back to the center. Hook your right ankle across your left thigh. And before we do anything here, I'm going to have you just really gently put some pressure into that right knee. So we're just opening that hip up a little bit. This might be enough of a stretch, and that is totally fine if you want to hang out here. Or we can grab behind the left thigh with both hands. You can interlace the fingers. Or if you want an even deeper stretch, you can hug the hands around your shin. And then you're just going to try to relax your head and neck back down to the mat. You should feel a nice stretch in the outside of the right hip and glute area. Your hands are all set up for the next side, so all you need to do is take your right leg and extend it down to the mat and keep a hold of that left shin. So you may need to interlace your hands around the shin and pull it to the chest. Then you can start rolling the ankle around, big circles. And switch directions. And then we're going to start to straighten that left leg up toward the ceiling. Grab the outside of the left thigh with your right hand and gently pull it across the body. Use your exhale to deepen your stretch. Keep your left shoulder blade down. And coming back to the center, we'll hook the left ankle across your right thigh. First, we're going to push the left knee out, open up that hip a little bit. And if you're ready for it, you can hug behind the right thigh or your right shin and relax your head and neck to the mat. And you really focus on the area that you're stretching. You can try to relax it, especially using that exhale. Sometimes when we rush through these stretches, we never really get our bodies a chance to sink into it. And next inhale, we'll release the leg. We're going to work our way into happy baby. We can do a couple of different options here. You can either kind of just hug around your knees here, pull your knees wide, and keep your knees kind of in line with your hips. That might be enough of a hip opener for you. Or full happy baby, your forearms go on the inside of your knees, but then you wrap your hands around the outside of your feet. And you try to pull your tailbone down to the mat and then pull your knees as wide as you feel comfortable. I don't care how it looks, as long as it feels comfortable to your body. You never want to feel like you're straining in a stretch. That will cause more harm than good. And I promise the more consistently you do this, the more your body will start to open up for you. Sometimes it just feels good to breathe. We tend to take shallow breaths during the day. Stretching is a good time to work on that full, deep diaphragmatic breath. And we're gonna release that stretch. Plant your feet to the outer edges of your mat. We're gonna go into some windshield wipers. So with your feet wide, your shoulder blades touching the ground, we're gently gonna bring the knees all the way over to one side. Full range of motion in that stretch. How close can you get your knees to the ground without straining? And then pull them back up to the middle and across to the other side. You can move through these at your own tempo. Just remember not to rush it if you're just doing this side to side, which I see a lot of people do. Your body's not really getting a whole lot of benefit. One more time, last side. And then however you want to get there, we are going to work our way up to a seated position. And we're going to go into a butterfly stretch here. So with your feet together, you can start kind of moving those knees up and down, trying to open up the hips a little bit. You can start to lean forward and plant your elbows on the inside of those thighs and just try to gently put a little pressure into those thighs to loosen them up. I have gone on runs the last couple of days. It's been nice here in Kansas, and so my hips are a little tight. That's okay. That's why we stretch them out, right? One more deep breath. Exhale, really sink into it. And back up to the center. Go ahead and straighten both legs out on your mat. You're going to take your right knee and bend it. Plant the foot across your left leg. And then sitting up nice and tall on your inhale, imagine you have a string pulling the top of your head up to the ceiling. We are going to twist over to your right, hooking your left elbow on the outside of the right knee and look over your right shoulder. If this feels okay, for a little extra hip stretch, you can actually bend your left knee. You can bring the left foot toward your right hip, but you want to make sure that you can still sit up nice and tall so you're not kind of contorted in a funky position. So you can either leave that left leg straight or you can keep it bent, but we'll keep that twist to the right side. Again, notice if the shape feels kind of tight, if you tend to hold your breath. I'm big on the breath. If you haven't been able to tell yet, we're going to keep working on that. It really helps your body relax. And next inhale, we'll come back to the middle. We're going to swap it out. So let's just straighten both legs out. If you want to shake them out a little bit, feel free. Then we'll bend that left knee, bring it up and across your right leg. Inhale, long spine. Exhale, rotate to your left, hooking your right elbow on the outside of that left knee. Looking over the left shoulder. If that feels good and you want to try for a little extra hip opener, you can bend the right knee so the right foot is close to the left glute, and then still keep that spinal twist. Nice long spine. One of the things that I've started to do during my stretches is I think of them as kind of a moving meditation. And so I really focus on the muscles that I'm stretching. So here I'm kind of focused on this hip a lot right now. This left hip feels a little tight. So if I have a thought that kind of pops into my head, I'll take kind of a deep inhale, and then on the exhale, I'll refocus my attention on the area that I'm stretching. And it's really interesting. The more practiced I get at that, the calmer I am in my mind and my body. And I end up kind of improving my flexibility over time. Sometimes when you're really tight and tense, it's oftentimes related to a lot of the things going on up here. Good. And then we'll come back to the center. And we're going to go into some 90-90s, which is hip mobility. So I think I'm going to show you guys this way. You want to be sitting up tall. Feet are about shoulder width distance apart. And to start 90-90s, I actually like to assist with my hands. And so you're just gently, kind of like when we were laying on the ground doing windshield wipers, you're going to let your knees fall to one direction. If this knee is hitting this foot, you probably need to walk your feet a little wider. And then you come up to the middle and you rotate down to the other side. So basically the head of your femur bone that inserts in the hip socket is rotating side to side on these. So if that feels really tight and kind of stiff, keep your hands down, and you can also move your feet further away from your body, and it gets a little bit easier. You have a little more wiggle room. If it feels good, you can actually lift your hands, and you can try to do it without any assistance. If you find yourself traveling, like you're scooting up on the mat, I would just keep your hands down and really, really focus on that stretch. We're going to do a couple more of these. Inhale and exhale. One more. Inhale and exhale, and we are going to pause right here. This might be enough of a stretch for your hips. You can hang out. You can also walk your hands out over your right shin and get a little deeper stretch that way. You can also work your way into pigeon, which would just mean you keep the right leg where it is and you start to straighten that back leg. It's okay if you're off your mat. No big deal. And so in pigeon, you can either be up nice and tall and supported this way, or you can just rest and sink all the way down to your forearms and just sink into it. Keep hanging out if you're rocking a good pigeon stretch. I'm going to show you one more option. If you're in pigeon already, don't force this, but you can bend your back leg and you can grab your left foot with your left hand, which gets you a little more of a quadricep stretch on this back leg. But all of these are just options. I like to give you some different ideas so you know how to progress these or feel them in different ways. There's no like one winning stretch. I think sometimes when people are a little competitive, they like to choose the hardest option. that's not necessarily what's best for your body. So the best stretch for you is the one that feels like it's being the most productive and not just super painful. We're going to slowly come out of that one. So whichever shape you're in, we're going to kind of go back to this 90-90 position, and we're going to rotate over to the other side. For me, that's my left side. And you're either going to hang out here. You might have a hard enough time kind of sitting tall, focusing on getting your knees down. You can also start to walk your hands forward over that left shin, and you can stretch this way. You can also straighten out your back leg, that right leg. Work your way into pigeon, either up nice and tall or relaxing down to your forearms. The other thing that's good to notice when you're doing these stretches is exactly where you're holding tension in your body. And so my outer left hip right now is feeling a nice stretch. So I'm really focusing on that area as I breathe. Sometimes when I'm in stretches though, I'll be really tight up in my shoulders trying to hold the stretch. So if I'm really focused on that, then I can, kind of relax my shoulders down. So I'm just really getting the stretch where I need it, which is my hip right now. If you want to grab that back foot, you can on the right side. And then slowly come back down to the start position. And we are just going to do one more kind of hip mobility move. So work your way into tabletop on your mat. We're going to rise up so you're standing on your knees. We're going to take a big step forward with your right foot. So this is a psoas stretch for this back hip flexor. You want to engage into your glutes. Gently start to push your hips forward until you feel a nice stretch in this back hip flexor. This is really tight if you sit a lot during the day at school or for your job. Remember, inhale and exhale, focusing on the area that you're stretching. If that feels good, you want to make it a little more intense. This is the left side that we're stretching, so you would extend that same arm up toward the ceiling. That'll actually help lengthen that muscle a little more. Another option is on the left side. Open up the left arm toward the back of the room. That opens up that hip even more. Last option for now, you can bend the back leg and you can grab the foot. Again, finding the one that's best for you. You can slowly release whatever position you're in. We'll come back, putting the right knee down. If this is hurting the knees at all, grab some extra padding, like a pillow for under your knee. You can also just roll your mat over itself a couple of times. So, arms up, we're slowly pushing the hips forward. And then really it's the right side we're stretching, so that right arm will give you a deeper stretch. Open it up to the back of the room if that feels good. And you can always grab your foot if you feel comfortable doing so. It changes the stretch a little bit though. This gets a little more into the quadricep. So if the front of your hips are what's feeling really tight, you might just want to hang out here. When you can really start to silence the mind as you're stretching, you really do start to notice what your body needs, what feels good. And it might not always be the same side to side, and that's okay. Good, and you can work your way out of that one. Okay, just one more minute because I forgot about this stretch until right now and I really like it. Come super wide on the mat. This is where we're going to end. We're going to work our way into a Frogger stretch. At least that's what I call this one. So you want your knees as wide as you can. We're stretching the inner thighs, your adductors here, similar to the butterfly stretch, but this one gravity really pushes down. You can come down to your forearms. And you can also rock your hips front to back. Use your breath. This is kind of a intense position for a lot of people, so be gentle with your body. If it feels too intense, walk your knees a little closer together. One more little hip mobility drill. You can try to really gently rotate your right foot up toward the ceiling without forcing it. Back down to the mat. So again, we're working on rotating femur bone in the hip socket, that femur bone head. You can do a couple on that right foot, a couple on the left side. Well, thank you for stretching with me today. Comment if you have any requests for future videos, whether it's stretches or workouts, and I will hopefully not take another 7 months to make a video.